Warhammer Vermintide II is the best game that you're not playing. The gameplay is fantastic, the character progression is satisfying, and the story is Warhammer at its best. This begs the question, where the heck is everyone at? I'm Jefficus, and I've been a casual enjoyer of Vermintide II since Fatshark released it in 2018. But recently I've really been diving into it with the goal of getting to the endgame and getting good at the game itself. Vermintide 2 is one of the best horde games in the industry. The gameplay is served with a level of brutality that only a Warhammer game could deliver. It features fluid melee combat, and it has unique first-person shooter elements. The main thing that sets Vermintide apart from similar games like Left 4 Dead is that you control a character in the Warhammer world. This comes with being able to choose a playstyle that fits you the most, so you can interact with the game the way that you want to. Perhaps you would want to play as the heroic Foot Knight, who is focused on melee combat and protecting your team with the use of crowd control. Or maybe you'd prefer to stick to a more ranged-oriented playstyle by playing the Waystalker, shooting magical arrows and throwing javelins at opponents from far away and never running out of ammo. There are 20 different careers in this game, and you choose how you're going to interact with the brutal combat that it offers, hacking, slashing, blasting, or shooting your way through hordes of enemies. And when I say brutal, I mean it. The effects in this game make sure that you can really feel the potency of your weapon swings as you decapitate a Chaos Warrior or the kickback of a rifle when you fire it. Combat itself is split into two primary components, high-action melee fighting and crispy first-person shooting. There's a level of enjoyable complexity in weaving together light attacks, heavy attacks, blocks, pushes, and dodges into either a rampaging horde or pack of beefier elite enemies. It's extremely fun to be able to obliterate an entire screen filled with enemies, and it's very satisfying to be able to do it without taking any damage. The melee combat is fast-paced, fluid, easy to pick up, and difficult to master. Simply put, it's just really balanced. Then you have the game's first-person shooter elements, which are integrated with the melee combat so well. For the majority of playstyles, you'll be whipping out your ranged weapon as a secondary option to deal with special enemies or other important targets. And the variety of options available for you to pick from in order to blast enemies from afar is quite expansive. Swapping weapons is quick, and ranged weapons do so much damage, making both long-range snipes and short-ranged quick swaps feel extremely satisfying to pull off. But if the brutality of this game's combat isn't enough for you to try this game out, you should consider its RPG elements and how the two fuse together to deliver an individualized and immersive experience. The best way to explain the RPG elements in this game is to outline the progression system. Vermintide features standard vertical progression where you level your character up and collect new equipment, but where it excels is in its horizontal progression. This horizontal progression involves unlocking different careers for the class that you're leveling. At certain level thresholds, you unlock alternate playstyles for your class, allowing you to experience the game through a mechanically different point of view. Take Carillion, the Wood Elf Ranger, for example. You start with access to the Waystalker, but as you level up, you unlock the Handmaiden and Shade. Side note, you can also play as the Sister of Thorn, if you want to purchase it, as the career was added as paid DLC. Anyways, each of Carillion's playstyles are drastically different. The Waystalker is a ranged specialist who can easily snipe targets from afar. The Handmaiden is a melee fighter that excels at speed and defense, dashing through enemies on the battlefield. And the Shade is a stealthy, high-risk, high-reward playstyle that focuses on headshots and backstabs. While you progress, you gain access to talent points and equipment, which form the foundation of your character build and playstyle. After about a dozen missions, the game really opens up and the progression begins to feel extremely satisfying. I specifically love the itemization of the game because it provides the potential for every item you receive to be useful for either your current career or one of the careers you have access to. And once you get the itemization to work for you, instead of working to get items, the progression system converts over to a build crafting system, which is exactly where you want an RPG to be. The more build variety you have in an RPG, the more playstyles your players have access to, which creates more replayability, and Vermintide has a wide variety of playstyles to choose from. When you combine the intense action that the combat provides with the clever RPG mechanics introduced by the progression system, you get a game that's not only fun to play, but it's also satisfying to devote time to. This is all fantastic for me to talk about, but some of you are only vaguely interested in actual gameplay systems and you much prefer a game with deep lore and a good story. The Warhammer franchise is over 30 years old at this point, which means that Vermintide has an ocean of lore to sail through. The game navigates through this magnificently by introducing a story that focuses on a small cast of characters to tell a much larger narrative. Lore is delivered to you through your characters, who talk about what's going on around the world as you play the game. Each of the characters comes from different corners of the old world, giving you a variety of perspectives to learn from. The conversations that your characters have pull you away from the very straightforward task of killing all the bad guys and saving the world. Things get really interesting when you learn that although your band of elite adventurers is doing really well, the rest of the world really isn't. The missions you embark on have you traversing the pillaged remains of the Empire of Man, abandoned dwarven halls, and the savage northern lanes of Norska. Each of the levels in the game feature a variety of absolutely gorgeous templates, giving you a breadth of fantastical environments to explore. Additionally, the environmental storytelling that this game has to offer is brilliant, because each mission contributes to a very clear picture that your character's conversations have already painted. You're fighting on the losing side of a massive war, and there isn't anything more Warhammer than that. This isn't your classic hero's journey tale. If you want that, you're gonna have to go back to Star Wars or Lord of the Rings. The tale being told here is that of the end times, and if you're familiar with Warhammer lore, you probably understand just how the larger narrative being expressed in Vermintide ends. And it probably makes you really mad. The best way to describe the story is that it's dark, it's gritty, and it's Warhammer at its best, and I just love it. So where the heck is everyone? The game has great gameplay, fantastic progression, and a phenomenal story that captures the end times better than the actual novels. If you love horde games or Warhammer, then you need to experience this game. If you're a veteran of the game who hasn't played in a while, come back so that you can be reminded of what hooked you in the first place. And if you're brand new to the Warhammer franchise, this is a great starting point. Vermintide was where I personally started to really get into Warhammer. Seriously, I need you all to hop on so that when I play quick play, I find matches instantly. Anyways, this has been Jefficus. I'll see you in game.